stop assuming that your starter is doomed when you can't feed it while you're away on vacation? Hi, I'm Annette, micro baker in Chicago and owner of Dough My Goodness Bakery, and I'm here to help you simplify sourdough. Quick recap. I left for 10 days to go away on vacation, and I had 4 starters that I tested when I returned to see which one recovered the quickest. One was in the fridge at 38 degrees Fahrenheit. 2 were in my sourdough home at 57 degrees Fahrenheit. One was 50% hydration, the other was 60% hydration. And the last one was my dehydrated Jane Doe starter. I fed all 4, baked with all 4, and I'm ending the experiment here because the results were clear. All 4 of the doughs that I mixed fermented slower than normal. 3 of them taking about twice as long as they normally would to fully proof. Let's go through what happened with each of them. The fridge starter stayed pretty active, but every time I fed it, the texture never felt quite right. The starter was really sticky to handle, and when I mixed my dough, it struggled to hold together as a cohesive dough ball when it went to shape. And on top of the very, very slow fermentation, it also tasted really bland. That combination, like active, but off in texture and very bland in flavor, tells me that the yeast and bacteria is out of whack. And it's likely going to take many more feeds to get it back in balance and back to full strength. Both of the Sourdough Home starters, the 50 and the 60% hydration, told about the same story. They both came back active relatively quickly, but on top of the very slow fermentation, the crumb on both were tight and gummy, and it had a slightly off-putting sour flavor. And then there was my dehydrated starter. I actually tested this loaf 2 days earlier than I normally recommend in my reactivating instructions. I fully expected it to lose at this point because of that. It didn't. The dough fermented faster than the other 3, and once it was baked, it made the best loaf out of all 4. It was an airy crumb, really good oven spring, and it tasted the best by far, even with less activation time than I normally give it. Right now, I'm about 6 feeds in since I've been back, and all 3 of the chilled starters still don't feel quite right, and the refrigerator starter is recovering the slowest. To be clear, I think all 3 of those starters can and will fully recover. Chilling them isn't permanent damage, but they will need at least a handful of more feedings to get back to full strength. Here's my takeaway. If you're going away for a short stint, like a long weekend, just put it in the fridge. But for stretches longer than a week especially, dehydrating your starter is the move, in my opinion. It held up better and made a genuinely better loaf, far superior to the other 3. Honestly, the best option is to have somebody else feed your starter for you while you're away. But if that's not possible, here's some reassurance. No matter which method you choose, your starter can and will come back to full strength with plentiful food, consistent feedings at room temperature. I have a dehydrated starter playlist that has full instructions on how to dehydrate and reactivate your starter. And if you'd rather skip the workup, I sell dehydrated Jane Dough on my website, doughmygoodnessbakery.com. The link's in my bio. Happy baking.